Ladies and gentlemen, the judge just read you the preliminary instructions. That is the law that is to guide you as you listen to the evidence in this case. And what I'm going to ask you to do now and ask you to do at the end of trial is two things. And they're two things that the judge just mentioned during those instructions. Use your common sense and search for the truth. That is your job. Over the course of the rest of this week and into next week, you are going to hear testimony from the witness stand. You are going to see exhibits. You are going to see a lot of exhibits and hear a lot of testimony. And all of it at the end is going to boil down to your ability to use your common sense and search for the truth. Your duty is to come to a fair and rational conclusion as to what the evidence shows, and that's how you do that. You apply the law given to you by the judge to the facts that you decide occurred, and decide if Maxwell Anderson is guilty of the charges brought before this court. Maxwell Anderson is charged with 4 crimes that have just been defined to you, related to the disappearance and murder of 19-year-old Sade Robinson that occurred on the night of April 1st, 2024 into April 2nd, 2024. Sade Robinson was a 19-year-old young woman. She had an apartment on the Lower East Side, 1858 North Commerce. She was in school, she worked a job, she worked at Pizza Shuttle on the Lower East Side. She was everything that you would expect a 19-year-old girl to be. That day, April 1st, 2024, Sade Robinson went to work at Pizza Shuttle, like any other day, and she made plans to meet up with the defendant, Maxwell Anderson, that evening after work. And she wouldn't know it at the time that she left her apartment that morning, but she would never return. Sade and Maxwell Anderson met up for dinner and drinks at the Twisted Fisherman restaurant in Milwaukee. They then went to Duke's Bar on Water Street, and then they went back to Maxwell Anderson's house on the south side of Milwaukee around 9:20 in the evening on April 1st. After leaving Duke's and going to the defendant's house, Sade would never be seen alive again. That night, she was murdered by Maxwell Anderson. Her body was dismembered by Maxwell Anderson in a vicious and gruesome manner. And then Maxwell Anderson attempted to make her disappear from this world by discarding her body into body parts into Lake Michigan, and then taking her car and burning it behind an abandoned building near 30th and Lisbon. The evidence in this case is going to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Maxwell Anderson intentionally killed Sade Robinson and then sought to have her disappear from this world. He cut up her body, tried to get rid of her body parts, and tried to cover it up in any way that he could. For doing this, he has been charged with 4 crimes: first-degree intentional homicide, mutilation of a corpse, arson of property for burning the car, and hiding a corpse. The evidence in this case, the testimony you're going to hear, is going to be voluminous. The judge just told you you're going to be allowed to take notes throughout the course of this trial. I would strongly encourage that you do that. The reason for that is so that when you're back there deliberating at the end of this trial, you're able to look back and understand the significance of things that you heard and remember it, because there will be a lot. So I would encourage you to do so. But at the end of this trial, the evidence will establish that Maxwell Anderson is the one who killed and dismembered Sade Robinson, and it'll prove him guilty of those 4 crimes. This is my opportunity to summarize the evidence so that you have sort of a roadmap as the trial progresses, and so you understand the context of what you're hearing about when you hear about it. You are first going to hear about April 2nd, 2024. Around 5:20 in the evening, the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office and the Cudahy Police Department were dispatched to the shores of Lake Michigan near Warnemont Park. It was a particularly rainy day. The weather was pretty nasty that day. and two young men were walking the shores of Warnemont Park, and they found a human leg, and they called 911. That leg that they found would later be confirmed through DNA testing to be the leg of Sade Robinson. The leg was found down a large bluff at the park on the coastline of Lake Michigan. It's a very secluded location. You are going to see ample amount of photographs of that location. And investigators searched that area north and south of there significantly, thoroughly, but found no other human remains at the park. Now, this park and this location is near the Cudahy Water Department. Investigators also discovered that on April 2nd, April 1st into April 2nd, a vehicle had been used to ram the Service Gate Road near the Cudahy Water Department pump house. This is right next to, about 100 yards away from where the leg was found on the coastline. The Cudahy Water Department personnel reported this actually the morning of April 2nd, prior to the leg being found. Notably, where this gate was smashed, this gate takes you essentially down a service road that goes right down to the shoreline where this Cudahy Water Department pump house was located. And recovered right where this gate was smashed were pieces of a dark blue Honda Civic, 2020 Honda Civic. Sade Robinson had a dark blue 2020 Honda Civic. The pieces of that Honda Civic were recovered from that location. They were ultimately determined by an analyst from the State Crime Lab that they were not just from any Honda Civic, they were broken off of Sade Robinson's Honda Civic. Video was recovered from the Cudahy Water Department and the surrounding area. And the video showed that near the location of this gate, a dark blue vehicle, Sade Robinson's Honda Civic, entering the park and entering that service road where that gate is at 2:53 a.m. on April 2nd. The vehicle remains down that service road, and there's only one way in and one way out, down that service road for about an hour and a half, and departs that very same service road at 4:32 a.m. on April 2nd. Additionally, on April 2nd, just hours after that car departs the park, at 7:30 a.m., Sade Robinson's Honda Civic was intentionally set on fire behind an abandoned building near 30th and Lisbon. Later that day, April 2nd, 2024, Sade Robinson was reported missing to the Milwaukee Police Department. Friends and family, friends who knew she hadn't shown up for her work shift on April 2nd at Pizza Shuttle, hadn't heard from her, reported her missing. Police followed up. They checked her apartment at 1858 North Commerce Street. She wasn't there. No real signs of what happened. Police would then follow up on the missing persons report, speak to several family members and friends, and discover that she had gone on a date the evening of April 1st, after her work shift. They also learned what her phone number was, and they learned from her family and friends that she had an app called Life 360. Life 360 and the phone number, with that information, police obtained phone records from Verizon Wireless, the wireless company that serviced Sade's phone. And those phone records from Verizon Wireless and the records from Life 360 provided very crucial information about Sade Robinson's activities on the evening of April 1st and her whereabouts. Notably, the police discovered a text message conversation between Sade and a phone number that the police would later learn belonged to Maxwell Anderson. The text conversation showed that Sade and Maxwell Anderson were planning to meet at the Twisted Fisherman that evening to get food, and indeed did meet around 5:15 p.m. on April 1st. Additionally, the records from Verizon Wireless, as I indicated, provided location information for her phone that not only confirmed her trip to Twisted Fisherman, but would provide further location information all the way up until about 4:40 a.m. on April 2nd. Police would follow up at Twisted Fisherman, and then through her phone records, also learning that she had gone to Duke's on Water Street, and they got video from those two locations that confirmed that Sade Robinson and Maxwell Anderson met up that evening, first having dinner and drinks at the Twisted Fisherman, and then they went to Duke's on Water Street to hang out and have more drinks. Through all of that information, the phone data, the videos, investigators confirmed they were at Twisted Fisherman from 5:15 p.m. until 6:24 p.m. And then they went to Duke's on Water Street from 6:30 p.m. to about 9:04 p.m. Videos also confirmed that that evening, Sade Robinson was driving her 2020 Honda Civic, the same vehicle that was used to smash the gate at the Cudahy Water Department pump house. Now, this would be time for me to mention it's a common vehicle, Honda Civic. Everyone's heard of one. But it does have distinct features. Honda Civics have sort of distinct features that are going to be worth noting when we go through the evidence in this case. Hers was dark blue. It had a sunroof. And particularly 2020 Honda Civics have these unique sort of C-shaped lights in the rear. And you're going to see those. All features that are noticeable on video, which will become important. At 9:04 p.m., Sade Robinson and Maxwell Anderson left Duke's together, and they left Duke's and got into Sade Robinson's Honda Civic. Sade was driving, Maxwell Anderson was riding passenger, just the two of them. The phone location information from both Sade's phone and Maxwell Anderson's phones, as well as other surveillance videos that you'll see from downtown and the area near Maxwell Anderson's residence on the south side of Milwaukee, confirmed that they drove from Duke's on Water to Anderson's residence. They arrived at his residence around 9:24 p.m., and you will see video of Sade's car arriving at his residence, driving right by the front of his house and then into the alley. At the exact time, her phone location information is showing her phone arriving at his residence. Sade's phone remains at Maxwell Anderson's home up until about 12:45 a.m. on April 2nd. There's a video from across the street from Maxwell Anderson's home that shows silhouettes and movement in Maxwell Anderson's residence for the intervening about 3 hours. The time she gets there, the time her phone shows that they got there, up until about 12:45 a.m. Consistent with Maxwell Anderson and Sade being there. That video from across the street, beginning about 11:24 p.m., all the way up until about 12:45 a.m. on the 2nd, shows some movement beginning in the side yard near where the back door is, where he would come out and go in. That stops around 12:45 a.m. And any human movement that you can see in the upper window stops at 12:45 a.m. Also occurring right after 12:45 a.m., Sade Robinson's phone location information begins to show her phone moving away from Maxwell Anderson's residence, where it's been stationary since her car arrived there around 9:24 p.m. Now, this is a very crucial time in the timeline. And this is where the phone location information that investigators got from Verizon Wireless and Life360 becomes extremely important. What occurs beginning just after 12:45 a.m. is that the victim's phone moves away from Maxwell Anderson's residence and begins to travel to various locations throughout Milwaukee County for the next few hours. And investigators were able to follow essentially a trail of videos where the victim's phone was showing her phone was at various times. From 12:45 a.m. all the way up until the approximate time her phone goes off the wireless network at 4:40 a.m. This is the time where that unique look of that Honda Civic is going to come into play for you all. You will see investigators followed where Sade's phone appeared to travel to and recovered videos around the county confirming that her car was traveling in those exact areas at those exact same times. So when the phone starts moving away from her residence just after 12:45 a.m., the records show her car driving northbound near 35th Street. Videos pick her car up driving in that exact direction. The phone then ends up downtown around 1 a.m. A camera downtown that actually is a license plate reader camera captures her plate downtown just after 1 a.m. The phone then travels up into the River West neighborhood where it remains until about 2 a.m. where cameras capture it again. It then leaves River West and heads westbound down Capitol Drive just after 2 a.m. where cameras catch it again. It then doubles back eastbound on Capitol Drive where cameras catch it again. And the records show it appears to get on the interstate and travel southbound towards and through downtown Milwaukee, and ultimately appear to exit the interstate just around 2:40 a.m., where cameras capture it again. The phone then, after exiting the interstate near College Avenue, heads east in the direction of Warnemont Park. Also captured by a trail of videos. And then by 2:53 a.m., video shows the Honda Civic arriving at Warnemont Park, which is the video I described before of the car smashing the pump house gate. Sade's phone shows her phone records show that her phone remained at Warnemont Park for about an hour and a half, the same amount of time that the car remained down that pump house road from the video. And in that time, police recovered video from that Cudahy Water Department pump house that overlooks Lake Michigan. That video, it's nighttime, it's dark, but it paints a telling tale. It shows, just after that car arrives, a silhouette of a person descending the bluffs near the coastline of Warnemont Park, near the Cudahy Water Department, where Sade Robinson's leg would later be found on April 2nd. That person, the evidence is going to show you, is Maxwell Anderson. This is the time where Sade's body was intentionally discarded into the lake after being dismembered. By this time, Sade is deceased, and Maxwell Anderson, using her own car, is trying to make her disappear. That video from the pump house confirms that he is down there for about an hour and a half before departing the pump house and departing Warnemont Park in her car around 4:30 a.m., which is exactly what the phone records show. Shortly after that, as the phone moves north, it goes off the network around 4:40 a.m. as it heads north into St. Francis towards downtown. Now, investigators also canvassed heavily near the area of where Sade's car was burned, way over on 30th and Lisbon on the north side of Milwaukee. And they also located a trail of videos from this location, picking up around 4:50 a.m., 10 minutes after Sade's phone appears to go off the network. And her Honda Civic is again picked up on those videos in the exact amount of time it would take to drive from where her phone went off the network to the location it's picked up on camera. That trail of videos shows her car, her 2020 Honda Civic, circling around the part of town where her vehicle would eventually be set on fire at 7:30 a.m. The Honda drives around from about 4:50 a.m. to 5:19 a.m., after which it is picked up next on a camera near a playground at 31st and Galena at 6:50 a.m. This is 1.5 blocks away from where her car would later be set on fire. The vehicle drives around more before pulling into the alley where it's set on fire. Police located video from a liquor store and a Milwaukee County Transit bus that depicts the time the vehicle fire was set. Now, you're not going to see it because he parked the car behind this abandoned building that did not obviously have functioning cameras. But these two videos show something crucial. They show two women walking down Lisbon Avenue who all of a sudden stop and begin to act in distress as they are clearly watching something disturbing happen. They are watching the fire being started. They are clearly shocked. They are clearly bothered on the video, which has audio. And right after they see this, a white male walks away from the area where the fire was set as one woman points at him and yells to the passing traffic, "He did that, call the fire department." You will see this white male on video. You will see the distinct clothing he's wearing as he's walking away from Sade's burning vehicle. He's got a dark gray hooded top. He's got dark pants, shoes with white soles, and he's wearing a large camouflaged backpack that appears to be very full. Police are able to follow an additional trail of videos of this person, the person walking away from her burning car. That trail of videos will show you that the person who lit Sade's car on fire at 7:30 a.m. boarded a Milwaukee County Transit bus on 35th and Lisbon at 8:12 a.m. And when that person gets on the bus, you will see their face clear as day on the bus camera video. It is him. It is Maxwell Anderson. He then takes the bus southbound on 35th Street and gets off the bus just blocks from his house. You will see that same vehicle, or that same video from across the street from his house that I mentioned before, showing him walking in his back door at 4:30 a.m., or excuse me, 8:43 a.m., right after he gets off the bus. These videos will prove that Maxwell Anderson lit Sade's car on fire, that no one else was with him. He did it behind an abandoned building in a part of town far from his home. Now, you're also going to hear that when police saturated the area, as well as family and friends who were not giving up on trying to figure out what happened to Sade, saturated the area where the car was burned, looking for any clues as to what happened to her. During these searches, family, friends, and police found Sade Robinson's other leg and other foot scattered and severed into pieces near that playground at 31st and Galena, just a block and a half away from where her car was set on fire. You will then hear that on April 18th, Sade's torso was discovered, having washed ashore on Lake Michigan in South Milwaukee. Sade's head had been intentionally cut off of her torso. Both of her legs intentionally severed from her torso. Her right arm intentionally severed from her torso. Her right breast intentionally cut off her torso. The torso was seriously decomposed, but identifying features confirmed it to be Sade. On May 11th, 2024, Sade's right arm was discovered having washed ashore on the shores of Waukegan, Illinois, severely decomposed. You will unfortunately see images of these body parts which make it clear that Maxwell Anderson intentionally decapitated Sade Robinson, intentionally cut off both of her legs, cut off her left arm, intentionally cut off her right breast, which has never been found, and intentionally cut off her head to date, which is still missing and has never been recovered. While horribly gruesome, this will show you the intent behind what happened to Sade and the intent behind making sure she was disposed of from this world. By April 4th, Maxwell Anderson was arrested by the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office, and you are going to hear that his cell phone was recovered from him, confirmed to be the same phone that Sade was texting on April 1st, the last text conversation Sade would ever have. Police searched Maxwell Anderson's phone. They searched his residence, trying in any way to learn more information about what happened to Sade. And while police did not locate any kind of gory scene in the residence, they located telling information in his residence and in his phone, including photos of Sade where she is laying on Maxwell Anderson's couch, face down, with his hand grabbing her right breast. And another photo of Sade's pants and her underwear being pulled off her body. The same pants and underwear that you're going to see that she was wearing on video when she went out with him that night on April 1st. And police actually find those pants and underwear in the trunk of her car after it had been burned. You will also hear from police who searched the area around Maxwell Anderson's residence and who recovered the dark gray sweatshirt that Maxwell Anderson was wearing during the time he lit Sade's vehicle on fire. You will see it's clearly visible on the bus video of him getting on the bus where his face is visible. And you're going to hear that hoodie had Maxwell Anderson's DNA on it and Sade's DNA on it. Additionally, you are going to hear from the medical examiner who examined the body parts that were recovered and was able to conclude that Sade's body was intentionally cut into pieces after her death. The medical examiner will describe the wounds to the body and what she noticed that showed the intentional severing of limbs, including the intentional severing of Sade's head. You are also going to hear and see evidence that the shores of Warnemont Park, where Sade Robinson's leg was found, were not unfamiliar to Maxwell Anderson. It was a place he knew well. It was a place he had taken a prior girlfriend to before, and that he called his secret beach. That's the location where Sade Robinson was discarded into Lake Michigan. It was a place he was familiar with and had taken a prior girlfriend to before. In total, what the evidence in this case is going to show is that Maxwell Anderson murdered Sade Robinson the night of April 1st into April 2nd. He then brutally and callously cut her apart, disposed of her body parts, and burned her car. Maxwell Anderson was the last person to text with Sade Robinson. He was the last person to be in public with Sade Robinson. He was the last person to have Sade Robinson's car. He was the last person to be with Sade Robinson. And the evidence will show that he is responsible for Sade's death. You will see, the evidence will show that what happened to Sade Robinson that night was not an accident. One does not end up going out to dinner and then going out for drinks on Water Street for a good time to being dead and cut up into pieces and discarded into Lake Michigan unless someone intends for that to happen. That's what the evidence will show happened to Sade Robinson. And the evidence will show Maxwell Anderson is responsible. At the end of this trial, I'm going to come back before you and again ask you to do what I asked you to do from the beginning, to use your common sense and search for the truth. And if you do those two things, you will find the defendant guilty.
Defense?